episode 142, C. Randall Nicholson. Good morrow, and welcome back to the Realm. We've all had bad hair days in the past, and today's a bad audio day for Joe. So apologies up front in case there's some of that carries over into the rest of the episode. But I am still your epic fantasy author, your friendly neighborhood scribe. And as I faced obstacles today, our guest today has faced many obstacles, which he's overcome to become a successful writer. Sometimes that's writer's block for some of us, or other times it's time to find for us to write. Our guest today, C. Randall Nicholson, overcame much more. Take a trip into my realm this week and listen to his story of courage and determination. Chris, well met and welcome to the Realm.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so I like to start out every one of my interviews with a little bit of a softball question to get you kind of warmed up. So, this is something that you get often asked as a writer, and I'm going to ask it again. But what made you want to become a writer?
I guess I've always liked daydreaming and using my imagination, coming up with stories. Like when I was real little and I didn't know how to write yet, I used to draw pictures that had stories to go with them. And then I just transitioned to writing when I was able to do that. Just kind of escapism, I guess.
Yeah, escapism is a great word. It's something I use a lot when people ask me about why I do it. So, in my research of you, I noticed you speak pretty openly about overcoming autism. How's that, really affected your writing, or has it? Is it something that you've used as a tool through your entire life, or how does it affect you as you write?
Well, that's actually one of the things I really love about writing, is being able to express myself, because I feel like I'm not as good at expressing myself verbally, because like my brain just doesn't work as fast. But then when I write, it's like really liberating, and I just have the luxury of arranging everything just right and editing and tweaking to express exactly what I want to express.
You feel like it allows you to be who you want to be. Your condition is not a condition when you're writing, but and I think that helps too. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Also, I feel like it kind of gives me maybe a little more unique writing voice. I had a professor, I wrote like a nonfiction essay about it for his class, and he said that I had this unique writing voice that was almost entirely stripped of metaphor. Those are his words. And he said it was like just unique enough that it made him want to read pretty much anything I write.
That's cool. That's something I hadn't thought about. But Chris, since you mentioned how your professor responded to your writing, how has the general public and your readership responded in that same way? I mean, when they find out that you've overcome autism, has their response been a positive one, negative one, sort of neutral?
I was pretty positive. I mean, it's not like a big response. I don't have like a lot of attention yet, but like obviously like my friends are supportive, and then sometimes I get like comments from strangers who are supportive, and they're just like, I enjoy your writing, or keep up the good work and stuff.
So let's talk about some more positive stuff. Let's talk about your work. I mean, what inspired you to write your stuff, and why did you choose the genre in which you write?
So I write mostly science fiction, like sometimes fantasy, just making up worlds and creatures and people that don't exist. Star Wars was like a big inspiration, because I was really into Star Wars as a kid, and that was a big source of escapism when I wasn't like fitting in school. But my own like science fiction, I try not to be too much like Star Wars, because that's really unique. I guess mine is actually more like Star Trek, like set in the real world, the future with space exploration and stuff.
And is that what you feel makes your novels a little different than others in the genre? I mean, is it the fact that even though sci-fi has a tendency to be, crazy sometimes, yours is based in some form of realism? Is that where you find the differences? Why your book stands out on the shelves?
Yeah, kind of. I tried to research it and make it as realistic as I could. But it's also like funny, because that's just what I enjoy. Makes it more fun to write. But it's not like parody or just like wacky. But mine is still like try to be grounded in realism. But then I think the characters are funny and have funny dialogue.
So I noticed on your website that you write a blog, and there's a lot on there, man. It was fun to dive into some of that. Many of our viewers are also authors, and I want you to give a tip here on your blog writing. How have you been able to use that as a tool to stay in touch with your readers and also grow your readership?
I had a goal that I was gonna like publish it consistently every week, even if I didn't feel like writing, because then it'll theoretically get more of a following that way. And it also like forces me to write at least a little bit every week, even if I'm being lazy. Um,
So on your website, I also saw something that was kind of fun. You have a list of your favorite music. Do you use music to get you in the mood to write? I mean, is it a tool for you as well? What brought that up?
I'm just kind of obsessed with music. Usually just try to play it in the background as much as possible if I'm writing or whatever. I don't know. I guess I want people to be like, "Oh, you have such cool taste in music. You're so cool."
Clearly, clearly. So, Chris, let's talk a little bit about the Crusaders of the Chrono Crystal. I know that's a your big work, and I'm sure our readers are going to want to hear about it. So, why don't you tell them a little bit about the story?
I think of it as like Indiana Jones in space, kind of, as it's like set in the real world. It's supposed to be semi-realistic, but then there's magic. Basically, these adventurers just go around having adventures in space, and then they get hired to find this magic crystal that can transport people through time and space. And then the bad guys want to use it to rewrite history and take over the galaxy and stuff.
Clearly, you're a fan of Indiana Jones, and I'm sure there's an Indiana Jones type character in the book. What inspired you to write that character, and what was fun about writing it?
I guess like Jane Paget is kind of like the lead character. She has like a sidekick slash co-pilot. Um, they're supposed to be like equally protagonists, but Jane like stole the spotlight because she was more extroverted, and she was just fun to write because she's sassy and sarcastic. She was kind of inspired partially by like Sean Spencer from Psych. So kind of like this person who says weird, funny stuff, and like to the audience she's funny, but like to the other characters sometimes she's exasperating.
Gotcha. So, hey, look, we're coming to the end of our time, and I want to make sure that we get you through one of our world famous lightning rounds. So, are you ready to answer some fun questions?
Sure.
So, knowing that you're a big Star Wars fan and that meant a lot to you as you were growing up, who's your favorite Star Wars character and why?
I guess Obi-Wan Kenobi, just because he's like, I think one of the most heroic characters. Like, he's not perfect, but I feel like he's just really selfless. He kept getting screwed over and he deserves so much better.
Have you ever taken inspiration from any Star Wars characters and kind of did what you did with Jane Paget and make your own sort of character out of them and sneak them into your novel?
I took inspiration from like General Grievous because I liked his cyborg legs, and so I gave the character cyborg legs.
That's a real good one. So, name one of your odd writing habits. All of our writers that are watching now, we all have something odd. What's your oddest habit?
Just like writing things out of order. Like with this book, I wrote the ending a while before I wrote the rest. Like I had an idea of what I was doing, but it also partially evolved as I was going along. So it's kind of like a mix of like planning and spontaneity. And like writing it out of order made it easier to stay invested and not just get bored of just like trudging forward. And of course, afterward, I have to like read it through to catch all the continuity errors that come up when you do that. But it's still fun.
I do the same thing. I write the end, then I go back and write the beginning, and then I fill in the middle, and there's always continuity errors. And you're exactly 100% right. But that's my writing style too, man. So we share a little bit of that in common. So before I let you go, tell our listeners and viewers here how they might be able to find you and where they can buy your book.
It's Crusaders of the Chrono Crystal, and you can buy it on Amazon.
Well, Chris, thank you very much for coming on the Realm. Look forward to getting book two, and I'll start into book one here this weekend. I was looking for a cool sci-fi fantasy to start into here as one of my summer reads. So I'm gonna check yours out and download it tonight. Thank you very much for coming onto the Realm.
No problem. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
So I hope you found Chris as inspiring as I did. And speaking of inspiration, my publisher Gwen had asked me to redo my website for the launch of our fourth and final book in the installment of the Warminster Saga. And that website is now up and running. Check me out at www.jvhilliard.com. I hope you like the facelift we gave. And as always, to our many followers, thanks again for lending me your ear. And until next time, I'm still JV Hilliard, and may your gods go with you.